today we're fortunate to have Amber Rengel. She's our VP and Director of Workforce Development, and she will be doing the spotlight presentation on the Office of Strategic Workforce Development and the first-year accomplishments of that office. So, Amber, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, directors. So the Office of Strategic Workforce Development was funded last year in the governor's $350 million investment in workforce development. Our office is just $150 million of that, but we're very excited to be leading the charge in all things workforce as they relate to ESD's strategic focus on industry. So our key priorities are industry-driven workforce development. Unlike a lot of other ESD incentives for businesses, this is funding training and education providers partnering with business and industry. So it's for business and industry. We do want to make sure that they're getting the benefit and they're partnered with training and education providers, but it's not directly going to business. We do have a strategic focus on good jobs with a definition in our guidelines. Good jobs looking at living wages and pathways to family sustaining wages in high growth industries. And one thing that we're very excited about is the opportunity to expand opportunities for historically marginalized communities through providing wraparound services such as childcare, transportation. So we do have some flexible funding for that. We also are very data and outcomes driven. So we have a data and outcomes driven award, and we will be collecting lots of information to publicly post on our website and through dashboards once we start to collect some outcomes data. So we want to make sure that we're funding what continues to be successful and reevaluating if we're not achieving the success that we need. So this is just a snapshot of the high growth industries that we are targeting. Many align with ESD's strategic priorities. We worked with the REDCs to define this list. So these are the statewide targeted industries. And then we also have a number of regional targeted industries as well. So the next one's a bit of an eye test, but things like agribusiness and offshore wind certainly don't make the statewide targets, but they are priorities for certain regions. So the first program is a $35 million capital grant program. This is a very generous award. ESD is covering up to 50% of the total project cost, which is a little bit higher than traditional. And the awards range from $100,000 to $3 million. And these are for projects that are directly funding training and education providers and the technology needed for training. Our pay for performance program has two program tracks. This is the flexible funding. This is operating funding. So the operating grants are for a wide range of programmatic costs, from curriculum development to trainee support services, wraparound services, childcare, transportation. This again is another very generous award. ESD is providing up to 75% of the total project costs for awards ranging from $50,000 up to $1 million. And this is to date our highest in the number one category of applications we receive and awards we've given. The Capacity Building Award is a data metrics driven award. This is for existing programs who are placing trainees directly into good jobs. So the award's based on the number of trainees placed in good jobs in the previous calendar year. We want to recognize the organizations doing the good work already and help them expand capacity. Our submission timeline for the year is now on a quarterly basis. We're currently evaluating round 3 for the first quarter, and then have deadlines the next few quarters. We started. So I started in August. We launched our program in October. We made our first a round of awards in December, our second in March, and now we're moving to a more sustainable quarterly basis for awards.
Do you have a rolling basis application?
Yes.
The REDCs do?
Yep. So they're open on a rolling basis, and we just batch them quarterly. These are some of the metrics that I mentioned that we'll be tracking and reporting on: enrollment and completion, credentials earned, and then some post job placement earnings, and looking at the growth of those earnings over time as well. We do have our first year progress report. As I mentioned, the office, officially launched late last summer, early fall. But the governor's announcement was last April. So to align with the governor's announcement, we had a 1-year progress report in roughly 8 months, which we're very proud of. And some of the core functions of the office, things that we've hit the ground running and already started with and are going to continue in the coming years, are to drive innovative high impact workforce programming, to continue to fund innovative approaches to workforce development. We're going to continue to work with the regional councils and with our other ESD colleagues on identifying strategic industries and places where there are training and education gaps, and also connecting the dots across regions and industries, really looking at scaling programs that are working in some regions and where there's a need in other regions. So, and while working with our Department of Labor and SUNY and CUNY colleagues as well. To date, we've had 22 awards for over $13 million, training over 6,600 New Yorkers, partnering with over 200 businesses, and leveraging over $10 million in matching funds. That is just in the first 2 rounds. So we're really excited to continue this work over the next year and provide even a larger impact. The next, our annual report kind of outlines the year ahead. We are working on establishing a resource hub for grantees to define some best practices. So in addition to our guidelines for applying for the award, we want to provide them with some best practices in things like partnering with industry and providing wraparound services. The regional strategies. So the last December, the Regional Economic Development Councils all did a regional workforce strategy that was a regional report. We've incorporated some of that information into our report, and we'll continue to work with the regional councils in leveraging their regional strategies as well. So we have links in our report to the regional strategies, and also here. We are, essentially getting out. I did 3 REDC meeting presentations last week. We're getting out, doing lots of presentations, sharing information. We want to make sure that the people who need access to this funding have it. So we've been encouraging people to, all the resources are on our website, to reach out to our email. We have staff answering the email questions from the public. I've had an extensive FAQ and have email alerts for people interested in news from the office. So with that, any questions from the board?
Great. Well, thank you very much, Amber. Yeah, I'll start off. I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
I know a lot of the workforce training initiatives for ESD are relatively new, and the Department of Labor used to handle a lot of that. Do we handle all workforce training initiatives now, or does DOL still administer some, and what do they do and what do we not do?
So DOL still has everything that DOL has always had. I like to remind people that it's a mouthful, but the Office of Strategic Workforce Development is essentially carving out our piece. We have $150 million in workforce funding for our regional investments and our investments that are going to support our industries. So DOL still has all their funding, still in control of all their funding. Under the $350 million investment, the governor also invested $109 million in the Department of Health, and with this recently enacted budget, doubled that. So now there's $218 million in health, because healthcare is one of the questions we get often, because we're not focused on healthcare, but the Department of Health has $218 million now to focus on healthcare workforce initiatives. So we're really the other piece about connecting dots across regions and agencies. We're not controlling what the other agencies have, what SUNY and CUNY have. We're really partnering with them and aligning metrics and aligning reporting and aligning resources, and just really working, trying to work collaboratively with them and identifying, this is something that is in DOL's lane. This is something that's in SUNY and CUNY's lane. And, not that we all need to stay in our lane, but just kind of identifying this is being done here, and we don't necessarily need to invest there.
Okay, so there's collaboration with all state agencies to avoid any duplication of efforts. So that's good. My last question, then I'll go to Hilda and Sherry. I know we partner with a lot of the colleges on the workforce training, But for kids who don't need to go to college because they could get trained in other good jobs, do we also work with the various BOCES throughout the state? And do they get to participate in your programs as well?
Yes, yes, we've already funded, I think at least one BOCES program, but nonprofit and for-profit training and education providers, the K-12 training and education providers, but particularly BOCES and K-12 programs that are going directly into the workforce are eligible for our funding, as are unions and colleges, higher education,
Great,
four-year
great to hear.
and community colleges.
Sure.
So are you sharing data with the Department of Labor, like unemployment unemployment data and things like that, that will help you in evaluation? And is there a coherent evaluation strategy across all of the departments that are doing workforce training?
So DOL is the owner of I mean,
They share with
yeah,
you?
we do, yes. So they have an extensive data shop that we've gotten information from. We're the platform that we're developing for reporting under the 350 million across agencies is actually housed at the Department of Labor. We're utilizing their one-stop operating system, OSOS. So DOL is a very strong partner in the data situation, yeah. As they should be, since
Yeah, the wraparound services, do applicants have to have that plan included in their proposal?
it is
And
they need to show something. So some of the applicants and even awardees are partnered with organizations who are, more social service providers. So we are looking for it. So we're trying to target historically marginalized communities, and we understand that there are needs, associated. We need to remove barriers to employment. So if we encourage partnerships. So if you're a training and organization provider who is doing a great job with the training, has great business partnerships, but you don't necessarily have the strong social services side, we encourage partnerships. And we have a couple of examples of those, of organizations who are partnering with social service type organizations and community-based organizations who are providing access to wraparound services, mental health care, career coaching and all that. So it does need to be part of the application.
thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Amber? All right. Well, thank you very much, Amber.